Well, AnteoTech delivers cutting-edge technology to address some of the world's key health and environmental challenges of our time. Its innovations span the development of in vitro diagnostic solutions that improve speed and accuracy in healthcare to addressing the performance demands of batteries to support the clean energy transition. Well, please welcome AnteoTech's Managing Director and Chief Executive, David Radford. David, welcome.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you. It's great to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to provide the update. So if we get into the presentation, AnteoTech is an early stage revenue company. We create value through the accelerated development and commercialization of technologies, and specifically we are now focused in two main areas. We're looking at working in the next generation of lithium-ion batteries, where we're looking at moving into the ultra-high energy product, and also in the life sciences area. If I could have the next slide, please. So in the life sciences area, we're working predominantly in the anode optimization. Within the batteries themselves, the cathode and the electrolyte have really been optimized for both performance and cost. The reason that the anode hasn't been optimized as yet is that in order to achieve that ultra-high performance that we're striving for, which is that next generation of battery, we're really looking at moving from graphite as the current dominant material within the anode to higher silicon. And whilst this sounds relatively straightforward, it's actually proving to be quite difficult. And that's what we've spent 7 years working on in our clean energy technology. And we now have two solutions that are very much optimized to enable that transition. AnteoX is an additive that we can add to anyone's anode slurry, which is the formulation for the material. And basically this is easily adapted for manufacturing. It's been designed for manufacturing, slots into existing manufacturing processes. And also we've got our own ultra-high silicon anode, which is a 70% silicon anode. To give some context, and I'll talk about it in the next couple of slides, our anode works with 70% silicon, and most of the electric vehicles currently on the market are working somewhere between 0 and 10% silicon. So we're offering a quantum step change through both our formulation capability and our ability to optimize AnteoX for that high silicon model. In the life sciences, we have our AnteoBind product, which we've been very much optimizing for point of care tests. So point of care tests, think the rat test, diagnostic tests where you use them at the site of testing. If I could have the next slide, please. So to spend a bit more time talking about silicon, the reason that silicon is the future of lithium-ion battery anodes is that on a gram per gram basis, silicon holds up to 10 times more lithium ions than graphite. So for a similar sized battery, you can get an enormous increase in energy density. And energy density is what drives the battery life. So if you think about charging an electric vehicle in the morning, the more lithium ions you can get into your battery, the greater the range you will have. At AnteoTech, we've been able to demonstrate up to a 35% increase in energy density. We use an unrefined metallurgical silicon in our anodes, and we've actually been able to reduce our cost per kilowatt, which is a very important metric for battery manufacturers. Equally as importantly is, as we go through some of these geopolitical changes, silicon is widely available. And we're actually getting a lot of approaches from battery manufacturers that are now saying, we're sourcing graphite from China. Most of the world's graphite comes from the Chinese locations. And as a result, they're looking for alternatives to graphite and looking to accelerate that transition to high silicon. So we're, in many ways, not only are we producing, in many ways, we're not only increasing performance, but we're also reducing the geopolitical risk. Next slide, please. In parallel with an additive that we can add to anyone's anode material, we're also developing our own ultranode product. Ultranode is our own silicon anode that contains 70% silicon. And we recently announced before Christmas that we'd sold our first ultranode material to Mercedes-Benz for evaluation as they look at their next generation batteries. What this means when you look at a car manufacturer, if your current range is 450 kilometres, our ultranode target is to take that up to over 600 kilometres. We believe that from the data we have generated, and we now have an extensive suite of data, that a 30% plus increase in energy density is very achievable and demonstrable in our ultranode product. If I could have the next slide, please. We have a broad range of opportunities. We're basically working a portfolio approach to the battery market. We have an ability to service everything from consumer and medical, and we mentioned that we've been working with Weon, which is one of the world's largest medical battery manufacturers. We're also working in parallel with manufacturers that make batteries for various consumer products, whether that be mobile phones, mobile headphones, and as well we're working with advanced chemical companies. So we can work all the way through the supply chain and the manufacturing chain, all the way up to electric vehicles and beyond. And as we announced in our quarterly, we have an extensive range of near-term opportunities that we are now focused on moving through to commercialization stage. Next slide, please. In the life sciences business, we are working in the Indian market. We clearly have an announced relationship with Serum Institute of India, which is the world's largest vaccine manufacturer. We're also working with some of the startup businesses in India that are developing their own point-of-care technology. In parallel with the life sciences opportunity, we're also talking to e-mobility companies. So if you think about electric bikes, electric scooters, they have their own unique battery requirements, and our clean energy team is working with those range of companies, as well as electric vehicle companies based in India. So we see the Indian market as being a very opportune growth opportunity for us, and we're investing time and effort both in the life sciences and the clean energy side of the business. Next slide, please. As a corporate snapshot, we have a market cap of approximately 46 million. We reported cash on hand of 7.4 million at the end of the quarter, and we have no debt. Next slide, please. 5 key takeaways from today is that we have near-term revenue opportunities in both targeted segments. Our next generation battery products have been validated by major international companies, and we are now looking to move from validation stage through to commercialization. We have initial clean energy revenues, and we are looking to build those as we move forward into towards the end of financial year 2025 and beyond. We also have expanding use of our AnteoTech product, and we are looking to drive that through the Indian opportunity. So we're now looking at multiple commercial milestones in 2025, which has really been driven by our marketing-led, sales-driven focus as we've moved from a research company to one on a more commercial footing. So Andrew, thank you very much for the opportunity to present today.
David, thanks so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Let's get to some of the questions as asked by you, David. The first one being, what are the biggest challenges in commercialising AnteoTech and ultranode, and how are you addressing them?
Great question. So if you look at the clean energy market, and in particular the lithium-ion battery segment, there's a lot of players in that sector. So what we have had to do is really build our credibility through the generation of material and meaningful data, and worked with our potential business partners such that they have been able to both validate it and replicate it within their own laboratories. So it's been one of building the credibility to set ourselves aside from the pack. given that we are in that transition to high silicon and the challenges associated with that, we are able to differentiate ourselves because we are now working with 30 to 70% silicon in our anodes. And when you consider that the electric vehicle companies are working with less than 10%, that gives us enormous credibility. We've also recently employed a senior executive as a sales director for Europe and the USA, and he's come to us from a leading battery manufacturer. So we're able to attract high caliber people, we have a very well validated story, and we are working very closely with our customers such that they can replicate that data.
David, we've got a follow-up question from Vijay. Vijay, thanks very much. Can you give an update on, are you on track for Ultranode to reach 1,000 cycles this financial year?
It is one of our targets that we have, that we are working to. We have an extensive group of engineers that are working on that. We've hit 900 cycles with 70% energy retention. The specific question that is being asked is, will we get to 1,000 cycles with 80% energy retention? And that is very much a focus for us. And the reason behind the 1,000 cycle target is it's viewed as a hurdle for electric vehicle companies to embrace the technology. We're already being embraced by a range of electric vehicle companies, including Mercedes-Benz. We refer to EV2 and EV3 that we see as relatively near-term targets. Add to that, we have 4, 5, 6 and 7 companies that are also talking to us and working through how they make that transition. So we are ahead of that curve and embracing the technology.
Well, to our next question then, and with those ongoing evaluations by major battery manufacturers, what milestones must be met for AnteoTech to secure large-scale commercial agreements?
Great. So each battery manufacturer is different. You think about the battery that goes into an earbud, for example, and you think about a battery in a big industrial digger. They all have different requirements. And as we've been working with our customers, what has come through is the key learning for us is every battery is different, whether it's the composition of the anode and the materials they're using, the cathode and the electrolyte. So we've been working with the customers to optimize those technologies together. What our customers want from us are A, that the technology is easily incorporated into their current manufacturing process, and everything that we have done has ensured that we are designing products to be fit for manufacturing. But then they have specific targets. Now, whether that's the 1,000 cycles, whether it's the 500 cycles for consumer electronics, everyone has a different KPI that they have in mind. But at the end of the day, the common metric is, how do we get increased energy into our battery at a lower delivered cost? So if you want to use one metric, it is, how do we decrease our cost per kilowatt hour? And AnteoX, given a 38% increase in energy, is achieving that because we're putting more energy into an existing battery. Ultranode, we're using cheaper material inputs, so we're getting increased energy with a lower input cost. So that is our key driver. How do we lower the cost per kilowatt hour?
David, a question from Rick. Can you advise the status of Merck's design freeze that was incorporating AnteoX? It was said to be on track for late last year. Hasn't occurred. Why is that?
We're unable to comment on what's going on within Mercedes. Mercedes is evaluating both the Ultranode and our AnteoX. As I mentioned at the AGM, we had some very good conversations with the leadership of Mercedes-Benz. They are continuing to evaluate the AnteoX in the manufacturability process for their current design and future design of anodes. But I can't give any guidance as to when they will be entering into a design freeze, other than to say we have a very clear roadmap working with them that if our Ultranode succeeds and continues to perform as it has, we have a roadmap to commercialisation with them, and our Ultranode contains AnteoX.
And David, a question in your life sciences business then. What are the key competitive advantages of AnteoBind, and will the Indian market expansion drive revenue growth there?
Great. So AnteoBind, as we've spent more time validating the product and its performance, we've been able to demonstrate to our Indian customers both a reduced cost of usage. It's a much easier product to use and incorporate into their design process than existing technologies. We've also been able to demonstrate increased sensitivity using AnteoBind. And what that means is that they're able to decrease the amount of expensive antibody that they put into each test. So not only are we cost effective, we're easier to use, and ultimately from a quality assurance perspective, the longevity of particles that are activated using AnteoBind are up to 2 years. So it means that from a quality assurance perspective, there is an even greater level of quality assurance. Now, the second part of your question was, how are we monetizing that, or are we able to monetize that? We have already seen a significant increase in usage from Serum Institute of India. We are expecting to see that usage increase both within the current vaccine development, but also as they add additional vaccines to their portfolio. So we expect to see lateral movement and also increase in use with what they're doing. We have a very strong relationship with a company called VidCare that is launching a product later this year. We believe that we've been able to demonstrate to their satisfaction that we have increased their performance, and we have a group from the management team heading to India to have commercial conversations with them in the next month.
David, thanks for joining us from AnteoTech.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.